So is Canada's business community welcoming to immigrants? Click here the subscribe button, set up the alert, and if the content of this specific video is useful for you, let us know by hitting the like button. Well, a common fear we hear a lot from people that are arriving in Canada, it's like, am I always going to be an outsider? And sometimes people that have been here for some time already also have the same type of fear. Our view here is that this fear comes from a certain type of misunderstanding about a few different things. Let's dig into this. The first thing is that every person who came from abroad, especially emerging countries, is that people hear a lot the initial request for a Canadian experience. So for professionals, it's like, okay, where in Canada did you work before? What kind of jobs in Canada you had? But if it's a business, they want to know what kind of Canadian clients your business has here already. Have you sold to anybody in Canada? So this initial request for Canadian experience, it caused a certain uneasiness for the person or the business who's arriving, because they say, well, how can I make the first sale if everybody asks me who I sold before? Somebody has to be the first. The second thing that I noticed that creates this misunderstanding about I'm always going to be an outsider is that there is a lack of familiarity with the reality where the immigrant acquired their experience. Let me say that in a different way. Canadians just don't understand what kind of impact and what kind of solutions you were providing back home, right? Because they don't know your home country that well. Some of them will, but most will not, right? So this lack of familiarity, when you talk about your successes back home in another context, the only thing the Canadian is absorbing is, well, they seem smart in that reality, but they haven't proven themselves here yet. So I'm not sure if they're gonna be a good fit for us here. So this lack of familiarity generates this feeling of, okay, I'm gonna always be an outsider. The third thing that creates this feeling is that Canada itself and Canadians, we have a confidence about ourselves, because in the end of the day, we are a destination country, right? People are coming here. People are not leaving the country. People are coming here to a country that has high standards, high quality of life, high quality of products and services, and all this kind of stuff. So there's this confidence about things here are pretty good. So how do I know things and the quality of what you provided in other places, it's comparable to the same standards we have here? We have high standards. How do I know, do you meet these standards too? So this generates a misunderstanding. The last thing I want to mention about is that I hear sometimes people say, well, Canadians only value Canada. No, that's not true, in my opinion. What happens is that if we step back and think about it, in reality, humans value the known and the familiar. That's a human characteristic. We will value more something that we can recognize, we understand. And when we don't understand, it's not like there's nothing to do with prejudice. Oh, they're not from here, so they must not be as good. No, it's just like, I don't really understand that. So these four things, they may create this feeling I'm always going to be an outsider. But let me show now how this is not true. There's not this danger of always being an outsider for most people that decide to adapt. And let's look at the evidence, right? The evidence, it's all around us. Maybe one day, many decades ago, Canada was the toughest place for immigrants, because you would look around and you would not see any immigrant person in any position of power. But today, you look even in politics, there's tons of immigrants, even cabinet ministers at the federal government, in every local government. You have immigrants. The mayor of Toronto today is an immigrant, right? So it's like you have immigrants in position of power in politics. That's a very strong evidence. The second very strong evidence, and you can just verify that just by looking at LinkedIn, you have tons of immigrants who are leaders in the business community in Canada, right? CEOs, CFOs, business owners, many. It's a very large amount of leaders in business that speak with an accent and have a name that doesn't sound Anglo-Saxon, which are Canadian origins or French, right? So you have a lot of immigrants that are leaders in business. That's a second strong evidence that immigrants are not outsiders, right? The third great evidence is that you have immigrants all around in knowledge positions. What do I mean by that? You look at hospitals, doctors, heads of department, people in leadership positions. At universities, department heads, professors, researchers, a lot of these people, including heads, not only the technicians, right, but also people that head the administration, that are heads of departments, that are immigrants, right? So you have these three very strong evidence, right, in politics, leaders in business, leaders in knowledge positions. So what is the trick then? So how do people achieve these leadership positions then? Well, there is a specific approach that creates these good results. And let's look at these steps and what this approach looks like. The first thing is that the immigrant person who is arriving in Canada or has been here for a little bit of time really needs to have a curiosity to understand the reality that Canadians have, as opposed to trying to showcase how good they are talking about their background. It's about understanding the pains and desires of the Canadian people, of the Canadian market, right? The first thing, you have to be curious about what it is that they need, what it is that they want, as opposed to, oh, let me tell them about my story, and then it's going to become evident to them how good I am, how good my background is, and therefore they're going to say, wow, that's a good business, that's a good person, oh, let me hire them, or let me hire this business to be my supplier. That's typically not how it works. First, it's necessary to have a curiosity to understand what it is that they need, what it is that they want here in Canada. The second thing is then, once identified those specific needs, those specific pain points or opportunity points, there is definitely a need to display ability to meet this specific reality, to solve those specific problems or to open those specific opportunities that we have identified through our curiosity. And this has to be in a focused manner. And this is the part that a lot of immigrants do not understand, because they say, well, no, but I'm good at 10 things and this is only one thing. So let me tell you how good I am about all these other things, because that's gonna increase my value in the market and people will want to do business with me. No, that's not what happens. It does backfire. If you try to showcase too much about many things that you're good at, it's gonna backfire, because Canadians are gonna think, well, they're jack of all trades, master of none, right? It's like, yeah, they say they do this, do that, but I really just have this specific problem now, and I want somebody who will dig deeper in this and solve this problem for me. So you will be wasting these opportunities about generating a really good impact and starting to have the Canadian experience in the cases if you talk too much about too many things that you can do or your business can sell or problems your business can solve. Don't fall for this temptation to try to talk about being good at too many things. The third thing I want to mention is that after you show value in that very focused problem in the beginning, there will be opportunity to bring the background that you have in appropriate situations. Then people are going to say, wow, hang on a second, you're just not good at that thing that I hired you for. Or your business doesn't just solve this problem. Wow, you can also solve that other one. But now you're talking from a position of trust. People already trust you because you already generated the track record. You already showed your value. Now they're gonna listen to your background and to all the other things that you can do. But in the beginning, they don't know you. You're just a good storyteller. How do they know you can deliver all the wonderful things that you're talking about? So what does it mean in terms for the long term then in Canada? There is excellent integration. There is the potential for excellent integration if you follow these tips we are sharing here. So here are a few facts about immigrants in Canada. A broad background is valued, but later, not in the beginning, right? Once you have proven that you can add value first, then your broad background becomes something important. Say, wow, they're good at all these other things too. That's great. So in Canada, that's the second thing. In Canada, everybody comes from somewhere. 23% of the population of Canada today was not born in Canada. And in a place like Toronto, which is the largest city, it's 52% of the population was born outside the country. So who's an outsider? You're not an outsider. Nobody's an outsider. Everybody came from somewhere. People have this in common. And all families, even if you meet families, oh no, these people were born in Canada, chances are they all have immigration ties, parents who immigrated or the grandparents who immigrated. Or if nobody immigrated, if you can find a family where nobody is an immigrant, they are married to somebody who's an immigrant, or they are very good friends with somebody, your neighbor is an immigrant. So the immigrant population permeates the whole society today, and in many positive ways. Nobody needs to be an outsider in Canada in the long run. If you do the homework, if you're patient, if you are curious about Canadians, and if you follow steps to really truly bringing value to the Canadian society. So remember that combining this emerging market creativity with the Canadian infrastructure generates great results. Click here in these 2 videos to get more information about this topic.